Hello, welcome to Practical C++ Programming Beginner Course. My name is Zach, and in this tutorial we will begin discussing advanced topics in C++. Mainly all we're going to be dealing with is functions and how to use functions. And though many people may say this isn't really an advanced topic, I do consider it as an introduction to advanced topics because in C++ you will be using functions all the time, and they can get pretty complicated when you start throwing in templates and using, structures as a parameter and passing by pointers and returning a pointer of a pointer. So basically I consider this going to be an introduction to advanced topics, and that's all we're going to discuss. And we're basically going to discuss everything that we need to know about functions to get started and to build our Hangman game. So that being said, let's get started. From the very beginning, we've always had this main function, and this whole thing right here is the main function as we discussed. But I want to discuss the anatomy of the function, so to speak. So what is this int right here? Well, that int is the return value of the main function, and a function can either have a return value or it can not have a return value and just be void. The main function always returns an integer value, and you can see that here when it says return 0, and we can actually return whatever we want. So let me show you. For example, we could return 8 right here, and when we run this program it'll say process returned 8. Well, that's because the main function is returning the value 8. So at that same token, let's go ahead and turn it back to 0, and let's create our own function that returns a value. So let's say we make a function, and we're going to call it, we're just going to make our first function is not going to return anything, and then we'll make a second function that does return something. So our first function is going to be void, meaning it doesn't have a return type. And to do that, you type void, and we'll call our function, you can call it anything you want, we'll call it print hello, put the parentheses, that's where your parameters go, and we'll discuss parameters in a later tutorial, and then put your brackets. And since this is a void function, there is no need to type return and then a value. That'll actually throw an error if we do that, because the return type is void, meaning we don't need a return type. And this function right now, this code will run just as his, and that's all it does. All it does is basically return 0 because this function never gets called. But let's give this function some code to run. So we'll run cout. Actually, let me go down a line real quick. We'll say cout hello, and then end the line. But when we run the code, we still won't get hello printed on screen, and the reason why is because we have to call that function. And to call this function, you simply just type the name of the function in your main function. So you say print hello, add your parentheses, and then add your semicolon. And so the code will always start running with your main function, and it'll say, so it'll come here, and the first thing this code does is look up the print hello function, go to it, and run the code in this, and then it's going to return void, so it'll return back to the main function, and then it'll say process returned 0, because then it'll run this code. And when we run it, that's what we get. We get the word hello, and then process returns 0. This is back in the main function. So let's make one more function. Let's make one that returns a number. So we're going to call it int, or let's say double get age, and we'll say it returns the age. We can actually say, we can do one thing. We can say return age, which we could say is 23, or what we're going to do, we're going to declare a variable. We're going to say double age equals 23.0. We'll add a semicolon, and then we'll say return age. Okay? And then let's make one more function that says string get name and we'll return a string value, return Zach, just like that. So you're seeing various examples of functions being declared here, and in these functions they're returning something different and they're doing it in different ways. So let's go to our main function and see if we can use these other functions to make a cool message. So first we'll call print hello, and then we'll say cout, we'll say get name, and then we'll say is get age years old, end line. And this right here is basically saying print hello, so it's going to call the function print hello, which will just say hello, it'll end the line, and then it's going to output get name, the function get name, and when you call get name, it's going to return the value Zach, which means basically when you call this, it's going to return the string Zach, and it's basically just going to output Zach right here since we're using it in an output stream. So I'll say output Zach is get age. This one returns age, which is 23. So I'll say Zach is 23 years old, end line. And let's run it. And that's exactly what we get. We get hello. Zach is 23 years old. So that's all there is to functions right now. In the future tutorials, we're going to go more in depth with these functions. But for now, I want you to practice using the ideas we discussed in this tutorial. And I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.